the probability, mathematics, these are important things in machine learning apart from coding and data visualization. So having a good foundation in statistics, probability, all these things actually help you to interpret the result better. Now the case study which I am taking over here is something called a prosecutor's fallacy. Now what happens in a lot of the countries, even statistics and data actually is used to prosecute people. Now when we talk about this, there is a very big case, Sushant Singh Rajput's case or Riya Chakravarti's case, which is going on every day in television. So what we see is that they face prosecution in the media. So similarly, in a lot of countries, prosecution can happen based on data. So they may not have the evidence, but they may use probability, they may use statistics and say like whether someone has done the crime or not. One important thing in statistics we know is a probability of an event A happening based on B actually is not equal to probability of B because of A. So this is something which we need to understand, and sometimes this becomes very difficult to understand also. But when we are doing statistics, we need to understand conditional probability and the role it can play in the final outcome or the result which we are expecting. Now, this is a lady called as Sally Clark. In 1999, she was convicted for murder of her children, small children, and the prosecutors actually used statistics to prove that she murdered those children. They had absolutely no physical evidence about this, but they just used the statistics and proved that there is very high possibility or probability that she killed her own children, and she was put inside for life imprisonment. So how this happened was her two children, first one also and the second one also died in the bed. So what is it is called as cot death. So the children die while sleeping without any reason. So nobody is able to tell what happened actually. So in her case, what happened is her first child died of cot death. So nobody was able to give the proper reason. But unfortunately for her, her second child also died of similar reason, and nobody was able to tell why it died. But what happened was when the second one died, they had a suspicion that she only killed uh, uh, both the babies. And then she was tried in the court, and the doctor, who was an expert in the matter, actually used statistics and probability to prove that she had committed the crime. So how it goes is, for a normal case, if you are a parent and your child is going to die of this kind of reason, the probability is like 1 by 1300. So this is the probability, like you are a parent and you are going to lose a child uh, while sleeping or something like that. This is the probability. But what they did to further prosecute her was, they said like she comes from a very good financial background, she's wealthy and she's a non-smoker. So by adding these conditions, the probability of losing a child to cot death further reduces. So like poor children can die of a lot of reasons, but rich people's children may not die. That was the argument which was put, and the probability changed. So there was a conditional probability over here. And what happened is, when her second child or baby also died, they used conditional probability to calculate the overall probability of this event happening, like a parent losing two children to unknown cause. And what they did was, they multiplied both these probabilities and they got this probability, which says like a family to lose a child, two babies this way, can happen only once in 100 years. So this is like an event which maybe happen only once in 100 year in UK. So when I look at this data which is coming out from statistics, and when people put up a lot of numbers, all this, and in the court also nobody will understand all this. So then they said, okay, this seems like a case where actually she has killed her own children, and she was prosecuted and she was put inside for life. But what happened is, some people were not convinced, so they tried to reopen the case. They looked at how the statistical calculations were made, and people said like she was wrongly prosecuted. So what happened in her case was, if one of your child dies of this kind of unknown cause, the probability is like 1 upon 8500. But if second child also dies, that is again an event of conditional probability, which was not considered earlier. So event 2 happening if event 1 has already happened. So the probability here actually changes. So it becomes 1 upon 100. And then the overall probability calculation will show you 5 families suffer this kind of problem every year in UK. Now, if you compare this to this, so this is like quite likely event. So the probability has changed so much. So they realized that she was not guilty. And then when they went back and checked some of the medical reports of those babies, they found out like they had infection, and there was always a possibility of them dying out of other causes. So only because somebody calculated the probability wrongly and was not aware of statistics, she was put into prison for 3 years. So this lady unfortunately lost her two babies also, and she was wrongly persecuted for all this. So what finally happened was, she was convicted for life. Then she was inside for 3 years, and after 3 years, they found that she was not guilty of the crime. But by that time, the damage was already done, and she died of depression and alcohol abuse very soon after coming out. So this is a problem if you wrongly apply statistics or data, or if your understanding is less about the subject, and if you are going into this kind of things. So one should be very careful when we talk about data, especially if it is used to prosecute someone.